Discover the incredible recipe that moved a billionaire mom to tears after one heartwarming meal. Sarah stood in the middle of her modest kitchen, the sound of rain tapping rhythmically against the window. It had been a rough week, filled with too many bills and not enough income. A single mother at 35, she juggled 2 jobs while raising her 2 kids, Lucy and Ethan. The laughter they used to share around family dinners felt like a distant memory. Now, their nightly chats revolved around dreams more than dinner, remembering the warmth of their father's presence before tragedy struck. Tonight, she hoped to stitch together some fragments of that lost joy. Searching through her late grandmother's trunk, Sarah found an old recipe book, its pages stained with time and love. The first recipe she turned to was her grandmother's favorite casserole. A spark ignited in her chest, a chance to bring warmth and comfort back into their lives. She decided to host a community dinner. Inviting neighbors was risky. They had drifted over the years. It could either reforge connections or leave her feeling more isolated than before. But she craved that sense of togetherness as twilight fell. The aroma of bubbling cheese and tender chicken wafted through the house. Soon, neighbors trickled in, curious about Sarah's invitation. She served up warm plates of casserole with a nervous heart but an earnest smile. The kitchen hummed with chatter, laughter spilling over like the warm food on their plates, and stories began to flow, memories of simpler times that resonated deeper than the casserole itself. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Suddenly, the door opened, and in walked Margaret, the reclusive billionaire known for her charity work. She had once lived here decades ago. Eyes widened and whispers began. Some were excited, others skeptical. Sarah swallowed hard, uncertainty creeping in. As Margaret took a seat, there was a mix of anticipation and doubt in the air. Yet when Sarah served her the casserole, a quiet hush fell over the room, transforming into a moment marinated in nostalgia. Margaret's face lit up, tears welling in her eyes as she savored the meal. But amidst this heartwarming moment, tension crept in. Some townsfolk traded glances, murmuring skepticism about Sarah's seemingly sudden rise into the spotlight. The whispers grew louder, their judgments cutting into the meal's warmth like ice to flame. How could a woman like Sarah, who had struggled so much, rise above them? Yet, as Margaret continued to reminisce about her own childhood dinners filled with love, something shifted. Sarah, standing there, felt indignation bubble up. It wasn't just a meal, this was about dignity, about respect. She was fighting not just for her family's legacy but for the spirit of a community. The night closed on an unresolved note, her heart racing between pride and vulnerability. As conversations buzzed with renewed life, Sarah's resolve strengthened. Would she rise above the judgment, or would she be pinned down by her past? The questions lingered, casting a shadow on the light that had just begun to fill her home. Sarah's heart raced as the room buzzed around her. Voices rose and fell, laughter mingling with whispers, each sound an echo of hope and doubt. As she glanced over at Margaret, the reclusive billionaire, her mind whirled. What had once felt like a desperate search for connection now loomed large this night. This meal was a chance to reclaim her place in the community. But as she served another plate of casserole, a familiar weight settled on her shoulders. She could feel the eyes of her neighbors on her, some filled with admiration, while others seemed clouded with skepticism. The clinking of forks on plates served as a reminder that this gathering had the power to heal, or to fracture even further. "Sarah, this is incredible," called out one of the neighbors, Clara, her voice bubbly and genuine. "You've brought us together in a way we haven't felt in ages." Cheers echoed in the kitchen, and Sarah's chest swelled with pride. Yet, just seconds later, she caught a sideways glance from Jim, another neighbor, whose face twisted with disbelief. The line between joy and judgment felt razor-thin. Sarah took a deep breath. She couldn't let fear drown out the moment. "Thank you, Clara," she said, her voice steady. "I think we've all missed these moments. Life has so much to offer when we share it with one another." Margaret looked up, her expression shifting into something more powerful, a sparkle in her eyes. She cleared her throat gently, capturing the attention of the crowd. When I left this town, it was hard to imagine returning to a place so full of memories. But Sarah, you've reminded me of the importance of community, the warmth of home." The room went silent again, everyone caught in Margaret's spell. Sarah's hands trembled slightly as she placed the last plate on the table. But this time it wasn't from fear, her heart thudded in anticipation. Maybe we've all been a little too caught up in our own lives, judging from afar. We don't realize how much we need each other until someone brings us back to the table, she said, her voice rising with conviction as the night wore on. Something shifted in the air. Winter had gripped the town for too long, creating walls between them. The casserole wasn't just food. It was a bridge, pulling them together, reminding them of laughter, shared dreams, and old stories. By the time dessert was served, warmth permeated the room more profoundly than the aroma of baked goods. Children giggled, and conversations flourished. Sarah finally felt the weight of her burden lift, as if the ghosts of her past were telling her it was okay to let in the light. But just as a sense of unity blossomed, a sharp voice sliced through the laughter. "So, what are you after, Sarah? This night feels a little too good to be true." It was Jim again, his skepticism front and center, the simmering tension ready to boil over. Her heart sank. Why couldn't they just let go? "I'm not after anything," she replied softly, a hint of frustration creeping into her tone. "I'm just trying to bring a little light back into our lives. My kids deserve that." Margaret stood up suddenly. "We all deserve that," she declared, her voice loud enough to silence the murmurs. The tension crackled in the air, pregnant with unspoken conflict and shared dreams. Would Sarah be able to protect this newfound bond? Or would the judgments of the past catch up with her when she least expected it? As uncertainty loomed, the night held its breath, waiting for answers. The room buzzed again, but this time, the murmurs felt different, charged with anticipation and uncertainty. Sarah looked around, catching the eyes of her neighbors, all still reeling from Jim's unexpected challenge. Margaret's defense had sparked a flicker of hope, but now it was Sarah's turn to navigate the fragile web of emotions. "Let us just enjoy this night, Jim," Clara interjected, her voice light but firm. "We've all needed a moment like this. Sarah gave us that." Jim folded his arms, his brow furrowed in doubt. "Moments like this don't last, Clara. And who's to say it won't turn into something worse?" The clink of a spoon against a glass interrupted their exchange. It was Margaret again, her composure unwavering. "Jim, vulnerability is part of real community. It doesn't always come easy, but it's where true connections are born." Sarah's heart swelled, filled with gratitude for Margaret's kindness. Yet her hands trembled, recalling her own turmoil. "I get it, Jim," she said, forcing calm into her voice. "I know our past isn't perfect, but perfect isn't the point. I'm here trying to start fresh, at least for my kids." Around the table, the atmosphere shifted, as others began exchanging glances. Slowly, nods of understanding emerged. Sarah felt a warmth bubbling up inside her, a strength forged from vulnerability and hope. "All right, let us say you're sincere," Jim replied, the edge in his voice softening. "What do you want from us? Is it forgiveness? Acceptance? Just a chance?" Sarah breathed, her pulse quickening. "A chance to be part of this community again. I want my children to have the support and love I once took for granted." Behind her, the laughter of kids weaving through the room felt like a beacon of what could be. But just then, a sudden thought gripped her. What if accepting this chance meant risking everything again? Would her heart be able to take the falling? Margaret, sensing the tension, chimed in again. "We all have scars, don't we? A new beginning doesn't erase them, but it allows us to share the burden. Women like us, we know the value of lifting each other up." Jim scratched his head, glancing around at the faces his neighbors, his friends. Reluctantly, he seemed to weigh their approval against his own skepticism. Maybe he too was searching for a way back to connection. "I just don't want to see you all get hurt again," he murmured, his sharpness fading to a hint of concern. "Don't we all feel that way?" Clara responded softly. "But we can try starting anew, can't we? One step at a time." A murmurous consensus rippled through the group. Sarah dared to smile, hope flickering back into her heart. Maybe, just maybe, they could reshape their future together. Then, as laughter resumed and the children darted between chairs, a plate toppled from a gust of excitement, sending fruit and cream flying. Sarah instinctively leaned down, wiping the mess, only to catch sight of a small childish face, streaked with chocolate and pure joy. "Look, Mom, it's a food explosion." The kid laughed, and this innocent excitement pierced through the tension, causing chuckles to erupt once more. Just as Sarah began to breathe again, her phone buzzed in her pocket. Curious and slightly anxious, she glanced down. A message flashed on the screen, the words, "We need to talk. Meet me ASAP." Her heart raced, uncertainty creeping back in. What could this mean, and who after everything would need to talk about old wounds? As she looked up from her phone, the laughter of her neighbors filled the air, but the weight of the unknown pressed against her heart. Would she be able to forge a new future, or would the shadows of her past pull her back into darkness? Sarah's fingers shook as they hovered above her phone. The inviting chaos around her, the laughter of children, the warm chatter of neighbors felt worlds away. "Who needs to talk?" she whispered under her breath, her heart drumming with anxiety. Clara's laughter cut through the air like a soft knife. "Hey, Sarah, you okay?" Sarah caught Clara's concerned gaze, forcing a smile. "Just a message. Nothing important." Clara raised an eyebrow, but Sarah waved it off. Could wait. For tonight, she wanted to be present. Margaret spotted the worry etched on Sarah's face. "Remember to breathe, dear. Sometimes the best conversations happen when you're not in your head." Sarah nodded, appreciative of Margaret's gentle support. Her eyes wandered through the room, taking in the faces of those who had once turned their backs on her. Could trust be rebuilt after everything that had happened? As the evening rolled on, the air thickened with warmth. Jim lightened up, sharing stories about old times, prompting laughter from the group. Sarah felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. They were all still here, together. It was a good sign. A sharp giggle from one of the kids drew Sarah's attention. A little girl, no older than 5, twirled around with a plastic tiara on her head. "I'm the queen," she shouted gleefully. The other children rushed to join her, joining in a dance of pure joy. Sarah's heart softened. She remembered times like these, back when her kids were younger, when laughter filled their home. Would she find that again? As she poured herself some punch, her phone buzzed once more. The same message blinked at her, insistent. "We need to talk. Meet me ASAP." The urgency made her stomach twist. She hated the feeling of being torn. "Sarah?" Margaret's voice was smooth, like honey. "You look like you've seen a ghost. What's going on?" She hesitated, the words tangled in her throat. "I have to take this." Margaret nodded quietly, her eyes filled with understanding. "Go ahead, dear. We'll be right here." Sarah stepped outside, welcomed by a blast of cool, crisp air. The street was quiet, the sounds of laughter muffled behind the closed door. She dialed the number, her heart thumping against her chest, anticipation mixed with fear. "Hello?" The voice on the other end was familiar. "John? What's going on?" "Sarah, it's important. We need to meet now." "What's this about?" Her pulse quickened. Had something happened? "Please just meet me. There's no time to explain over the phone." The sternness in John's voice sent shivers down her spine. "Fine. Where?" "Back at the old cafe in 20. I promise it's important." The call ended abruptly, leaving her standing alone in the uncertain night, her heart heavier than before. A familiar anxiety crept in, raising questions that swirled around her like autumn leaves in the wind. Who would show up? And what needed to be said? Taking a deep breath, she returned inside, where warmth greeted her like a cozy blanket. Faces turned her way, the atmosphere rich with connection and light. She tried to push John's call from her mind. Everything's fine, she told herself. But in the silence of her heart, a deeper concern murmured back. What if the past wasn't as settled as she hoped? As Sarah joined her friends again, she tucked her phone into her pocket. She would not let old fears shadow this moment. Tonight was about connecting, about forging a new path. But with the clock ticking toward her looming meeting, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the calm before a storm. What new burdens awaited her, and would she be strong enough to face them? As laughter bubbled up again, she felt the warmth of hope flicker against growing apprehension. Yet, one question tangled with her heart: what if this meeting changed everything? The vibrant chatter and laughter from inside felt like a cocoon, wrapping Sarah in the warmth of fleeting happiness. But the weight of John's call tugged at her relentlessly. She turned away, glancing toward the street, where shadows danced under the soft glow of streetlights. I can do this, she whispered to herself, the cool air brushing against her cheeks like a gentle reminder to stay grounded. But uncertainty laid heavy in her chest, mixing with the warm joy that enveloped her from the gathering. What news awaited her at the cafe? What specter of her past would she face there? As she made her way down the familiar path to the cafe, memories flooded in times spent laughing with friends over coffee, sharing the highs and lows of life. The very spot where she once carved her dreams into reality now seemed like an uncertain threshold to her past. Stepping onto the bar's patio, she pushed open the door, and was met with the rich smell of brewing coffee and freshly baked breads. The cafe was quiet, save for the soft hum of a few patrons whispering in the corners, lost in their own worlds. Yet, the moment she spotted John sitting at their usual table, her heart raced. He seemed older somehow. The scruff on his jawline caught the dim light, and his hands clutched a hot cup of coffee, his eyes distant. Sarah's heart sank. This wasn't a social visit. It was serious. John, she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. He looked up, his expression mixing relief with concern. Thanks for coming, he said, motioning for her to sit. I wish it were under better circumstances. What's going on? Anxiety crept into her voice as she took her seat, keenly aware of the weight of history between them. His brow furrowed, and he took a deep breath, like he was trying to gather all his thoughts at once. There's something I need to tell you. About your past. About your family, he said, his voice heavy with unspoken burdens. An icy chill ran down her spine. 1,000 thoughts raced through her mind. Was it about her ex? About her kids? Just say it, John. The urgency in her own tone surprised her. She wanted the truth, but the fear of what it might reveal clutched at her heart. Your brother, he needs you, he finally replied, his voice cracking slightly. He's in trouble. The words hit her like a punch to the gut. Her brother after all these years? Memories of childhood, laughter mixed with tears, flooded her mind. The distance felt insurmountable, and yet the thought of him troubled felt worse. What kind of trouble? She managed to ask, each word steeped in dread. John leaned closer, his voice lowering. He's been dealing with some serious issues, financial, possibly something more dangerous. I tried reaching out to him, but he won't talk to anyone. Sarah, he's scared. Her breath caught in her throat. How had things spiraled so far out of control? As feeling flooded back into her limbs, the weight of responsibility tugged at her heart. The memories of exploring their childhood home together, the secret promises made under the stars, reignited a spark of fierce loyalty. I can't let him face this alone. Then you need to act fast, John said, his eyes sincere. But he needs you to come to him. You're the only one he'll listen to. Dread and resolve mingled in her chest, creating a tornado of emotion. Memories of love and neglect overwhelmed her, colliding into the icy reality of their current state. Would she be able to mend what had been broken? I'll do it, she declared, steadying her gaze on John. I'll find a way. As she stood to leave, her heart raced not only from trepidation but from a newfound sense of purpose. But just before she exited the cafe, she paused, turning back. What if I'm not strong enough? Jonna's eyes softened. You are stronger than you think, Sarah. You've survived so much already. You need to remember that. With that echo of understanding ringing in her ears, she stepped back into the night. The laughter from her friends faded into the background as a single thought blared above the rest. Could she really reclaim her past and save her brother? As she hurried down the street, a whirlwind of emotions surged within her. Somehow, she had to rediscover not just her family but herself along the way. Would she be able to stitch together the frayed edges of their history? And what other secrets might unfold as she stepped back into this world she'd once thought she'd left behind? The wind whistled as Sarah made her way down the street, her mind a flurry of thoughts about her brother. She recalled the days they spent playing in the yard, dreaming of what life would be like when they grew up. Now, that childhood seemed like a lifetime ago, overshadowed by unfamiliar choices and the weight of their family's estrangement. The walk felt surreal. Each step carried a mix of determination and fear. She didn't even know where to start. How had things become so complicated? The images of her brother's warm smile twisted into a scowl of despair in her mind, and she shivered at the thought of what he might be going through alone. She approached the small house that had once been a comforting space. She hesitated outside, breathing in the familiar scent of honeysuckle that lined the old wooden fence. It was a relic of their childhood, and now it seemed to call to her with whispers of nostalgia and regret. The door creaked as she entered. The familiar sound brought an unexpected wave of warmth, but it was immediately overshadowed by a heavy silence. "Jake?" she called softly, hoping he would respond. Silence was her only answer. He must be at the bar, she thought, heart racing. She took a moment to gather her courage before making her way to the local haunt that had once been their playground of laughter and connections. The bar was dimly lit, with a few locals scattered about, nursing their drinks. Sarah's heart sank when she saw Jake slumped at the far end, loneliness radiating from him like a dark cloud. The boy she remembered had lost his light, and her heart ached for him. "Jake," she said softly as she approached, her voice breaking the cluttered noise. His head turned slowly, and when their eyes met, a flicker of recognition sparked in his tired gaze. "Sarah?" he croaked, disbelief etched on his face. "What are you doing here?" "I came to see you." John told me. The words spilled out, unsteady, and she stumbled to find the right ones. "He said you were in trouble. I'm worried about you." He looked away, his fingers gripping the glass tightly, a look of shame passing over him. "I don't need your pity," he mumbled, but there was no venom in his tone, just a deep well of hurt. Taking a breath, Sarah leaned forward, desperate to break through. "You're my brother. I can't just walk away. Whatever it is, we can figure it out together." His eyes flickered back to her, a storm of emotions brewing. "What do you think you can help with? You don't know anything about my life now. It's too late for that." A tear slipped down her cheek, and she quickly blinked it away, refusing to let him see how much his words pierced her heart. "I know you've been struggling. I know you've gone through so much, but we have each other. Remember when we used to promise to stick together no matter what?" He shifted in his seat, visibly uncomfortable. "That was a long time ago. I can't ask you to carry my burden." "You don't have to ask. I'm here, Jake. I want to help. Just tell me what's going on." For a while, the tension hung thick in the air, as heavy as the dusty memories filling the space between them. Finally, he sighed, and the fight seemed to fade from his presence. "Fine. But you won't like what you hear." Sarah leaned in closer, her heart racing. "Try me." In that moment, she felt a flicker of hope amidst the darkness. But at what cost? Would she truly be ready to face the truth lurking beneath the surface? Only time would tell as she braced herself for whatever revelation lay ahead. Could she withstand the truth that might shatter what little she thought she knew? Jake took a long, slow breath, as if the weight of his secrets hung in the air like a thick fog. His gaze dropped to the half-empty glass before him, tracing the condensation that gathered at its base. Sarah felt every second pass painfully slow, her heart beating a frantic rhythm against her chest. "I've been lost, Sarah," he finally said, the words barely a whisper. Mom and Dad's separation hit me harder than I let on. I thought I could handle it, but he hesitated, looking away. But I fell apart. Her instinct was to reach out, to put a reassuring hand on his arm. But she held back, afraid of shattering the moment. You don't have to carry this alone. You can talk to me, please. Jake's eyes were shadowed with despair. Talking won't change anything. I'm in deep. I lost my job, and I've been picking up shifts here. But it's not enough. I started drinking to escape, and now I think I might have a problem. Her heart sank further. She had sensed something was wrong, but hearing it left her breathless. Jake, there's help available. You don't have to keep drowning in this. There's a way back. He scoffed, a bitter laugh escaping his lips. Help? You think it's that easy? I've messed up in all the worst ways. The more I try, the deeper I seem to sink. Doesn't he mean we can't fight together? She insisted, her voice steadying. You've pulled through tough times before. Remember the accident? You refused to give in, and you fought every single day. You can do it again. He sighed again, deep and heavy, like he was carrying a mountain on his shoulders. That was different. I was a kid then. I don't know who I am anymore. I don't know how to fix this. The tears she had fought to hold back now threatened to spill over. You're still Jake. The brother I grew up with is still there, buried deep beneath this pain. I believe that. Silence enveloped them again. But amidst the stillness, a flicker of light broke through Jake's stormy expression. You really think I can come back from this? I know you can. We can take it one step at a time. Let us start with finding you some help. He leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, walls still high but not as firm. I've tried before. What if it doesn't work? Then we try again. You've always been strong, Jake. Sometimes strength means asking for help. And I'm right here. He met her gaze, and for a moment vulnerability shattered the facade he had built. I don't know if I'm ready for this, Sarah, but I want to try. Taking a breath, she nodded, her own heart swelling with cautious hope. That's all it takes. Just one small yes to start. Just then, the clanging of glasses and murmurs of laughter broke through the heavy atmosphere. It felt distant and unwelcoming in this moment. Can we sit and just think about this? Together? Of course. As they sat in the bar's dim light, surrounded by echoes of their past, Sarah could feel a flicker of possibility emerging, strong enough to overcome the shadows that threatened to consume them. But even in this moment of tentative relief, a question lingered in her mind. Was Jake truly ready to face the truth of his struggles? Or would the weight of his fears push him further away, back into darkness? With so much at stake, she couldn't help but wonder how far they would go to save each other. Would their bond prove strong enough to heal the scars they both bore? The bar had settled into a dull hum again. Laughter echoed as another group clinked their glasses. But the sound felt distant, abstract. Sarah focused on Jake, hoping to find the strength behind those fractured eyes. What do you want to do first? She asked gently. Breaking through the lingering silence, he shifted uncomfortably in his chair, rubbing the back of his neck as if he could massage away his doubts. I guess I need to figure out why I started all this, he murmured, gesturing vaguely. Why the drinking? Why I felt so lost? His voice cracked slightly, vulnerability teetering at the edges. Talking about it could help, she encouraged. Remember what you said earlier? Finding yourself again means digging deep. Jake sighed and glanced down at his empty glass, then back at her. You'd think after all this time, I'd know myself better. But it feels like I'm wearing a mask. Who am I without my job? Without the family? Jake, you're worth S&T determined by those things. She insisted, feeling her heartache for him amplify with each word. You are still you. No titles or jobs can change that. He closed his eyes for a moment, as if gathering strength. The faint noise of the bar contrasted sharply with the tension growing around their table. I always thought I was strong, he confessed, his voice barely audible over the ambient chatter. But honestly, it's terrifying to feel so weak. I didn't know how to ask for help. I hated admitting that I'm struggling. Sarah took a deep breath, preparing herself to share a deeper part of her own story. You don't have to feel ashamed, Jake. Everyone struggles at some point, even me. I've had my moments where I felt lost, too. Trying to be perfect when I was just a first-time mom. I felt like I was drowning in my own expectations. Jake looked at her, surprise flickering across his face. I didn't know I thought you had it all figured out. I don't trust me. I'm just doing the best I can, like everyone else. She felt a warm connection sparking between them, a shared bond through pain and honesty. We're all just trying to find our way. For the first time that evening, a tiny smirk appeared on Jake's lips. I never saw you as anything but fierce. You always seemed to have it together. Yes, she chuckled softly, but there's chaos behind the scenes. You just have to remember it's okay to be vulnerable. Takes real strength to admit when you need someone. Jake's expression softened. The thought of revealing myself is scary, but I think I'm willing to try. Good. That's a start, she said, her heart warming at his willingness. Let us make a plan. Maybe start with a therapist? They can help you sort through your feelings, and I'll be with you every step of the way. Maybe I can find someone on my day off, he suggested, a hint of determination creeping into his voice. The shadows in his eyes seemed to lift, ever so slightly as they continued to talk and navigate through the maze of Jake's emotions. Sarah felt hopeful. These moments of connection made her believe in the resilience of their bond. Perhaps they could redefine their paths together. But then the mood shifted. Another wave of patrons entered the bar, laughing and buzzing with life. Jake's eyes drifted past her shoulder, a flicker of worry racing across his features. What if they don't understand? What if I can't live up to their expectations? Sarah frowned, sensing the walls start to rise again. Jake, what's truly important is how you feel about yourself. Don't let others define your worth. He looked down, defeated again. It's just hard. In that moment, she realized. They weren't just fighting his demons. They were wading through a storm together. Could their shared resolve be enough to anchor both their hearts? Would they withstand the rising tides of doubt that threatened to wash over them once more? As she searched his gaze for answers, she wondered if this fragile shift could be the key, or if the storm was only just beginning. Time seemed to stand still as the laughter and chatter of the bar buzzed around them. Sarah could feel the weight of Jake's uncertainty like a thick fog settling over the table. She wanted to reach deeper, pull him out of that murky space where fears and self-doubt held him prisoner. Have you thought about why you started drinking? She asked gently, her voice laced with concern. What were you trying to escape from? Jake flexed his fingers around his glass, knuckles white. I don't know. It was like I was at the bottom of a well. I thought if I drank, I could climb back out, feel something, anything. His eyes looked away again, sinking into a well of memories he clearly wasn't ready to confront. That makes sense, Sarah replied, encouragement flooding her words. You wanted to feel alive, to feel something other than the numbness. For a brief moment, his frustration flickered away, replaced by a flash of recognition. I wanted to forget everything, my failures, the lost job, the strain on my family. Maybe it's time to face them, she suggested. Everything that feels so heavy now doesn't have to break you. You can start again. Her heart danced with the hope that he could see the light. Even if it was just a flicker, he looked at her then, his eyes widening. What if I can't? What if I go to therapy and it's just another wall I can't climb? Sarah inched closer, her heart thrumming in her chest. It's okay not to have all the answers right now. The first step is to try. You're already breaking through by talking to me. Imagine how much more you could learn about yourself with someone who is trained to help. But I've tried before, Jake admitted with a hollow laugh. It never worked. I don't want to waste my time again. You're not the same person you were back then, she countered with warmth, seeking to draw out the resilient spirit lurking beneath his pain. You've grown and you're reaching out now. That's a huge difference. It means you're ready for change. Jake leaned back in his chair, rubbing his brow. You make it sound so simple, maybe that's how it starts, she said, her voice dipping slightly, heavy with warmth. Just a step here, a step there. You don't have to solve everything overnight. As they sat in the dim light, a comfortable silence settled between them. It felt like they were suspended in a moment where everything was possible. But the white noise of the bar swelled as a group spilled into an argument nearby, the laughter turning cold and clipped. Jake's expression tightened, worry creeping back onto his features, as he tried to retreat behind the mask of control he often wore. What if people really do judge me? He muttered, a hint of desperation in his voice. What if I still fall apart? Sarah reached across the table, her hand gently covering his. Jake, every journey involves a risk. But think about what you can gain: a sense of peace, a feeling of belonging. There is so much waiting for you if you let people in. Jake held her gaze, the flicker of hope battling with the shadows in his heart. It's just hard to believe sometimes. I know, she whispered, empathy coursing through her. But you don't have to do this alone. I'm right here no matter what. His breath hitched as he processed her words. The walls that had risen during their conversation hadn't completely crumbled. But he was at least peering over the top now. Just then, the bartender arrived, breaking through their moment. He filled their glasses, oblivious to the emotional storm brewing nearby. But as Jake lifted his glass, Sarah saw a new thread of determination woven into his demeanor, one that hadn't been there before. Let us make a pact, Jake proposed suddenly, his voice firmer. I'll give therapy a try, and maybe you'll help me keep working at it? A smile broke across Sarah's face, a spark of excitement igniting in her chest. Absolutely. We're in this together. But as the bar bristled with energy from surrounding conversations, Sarah felt the tremor of uncertainty linger, creeping in like a shadow. Were they truly ready to take this journey together? Would they both be able to face what lay ahead? Or was the storm waiting just at the edges, ready to sweep them into darker waters? In that charged moment, thoughts raced through her mind. Avowing action was one thing. Facing the emotional tides was another entirely. What if they lost sight of each other on the journey ahead? The question echoed in her head, demanding an answer that felt just out of reach. The streets glimmered in the soft glow of streetlights as Sarah stepped outside the cafe, the air cool yet charged with the promise of change. Her brother's revelations reverberated in her mind like thunder, each step heavier yet somehow lighter, as if she were shedding old weights with every stride. She had a plan now, a way to pull him back from the brink. The thought that she was rekindling their bond ignited a fire in her chest. The laughter and warmth from the community dinner still played in her mind. She could feel their spirits lifting, a ripple of unity that she desperately wanted to carry into her family. Jake's troubles had felt insurmountable, but now there was a flicker of hope. They were both lost but not alone. Back home, the sound of Lucy and Ethan's playful giggles burst through the front door. That innocent joy acted like a beacon in the dark, guiding her back to their shared reality. She found them sprawled on the floor, building a fort out of pillows and blankets, their laughter echoing through the corridors of their home. "Look, Mom, we made a castle," Lucy exclaimed, her eyes shining, a bright nod to childhood fantasies. Sarah knelt down beside them, her heart swelling with love. "It's beautiful," she cheered, wrapping her arms around her kids, feeling the overwhelming rush of their warmth penetrate her worries. "You're both so creative," Ethan beamed, despite the fort's precarious balance threatening to collapse beneath their weight. For a fleeting moment, she wished she could freeze time, bottle this instant of happiness. They needed this connection, support, laughter. "Can we have a big dinner tomorrow to celebrate our castle?" he asked, excitement buzzing in his voice. "Absolutely," came her quick reply, fueled by newfound determination. "Let us invite the neighbors too, just like the other night." Their faces lit up instantly. "Yeah, everyone should see our castle," Lucy chimed in, and Sarah couldn't help but laugh. For them, this was a joyful outcry, a necessity toward rebuilding their world. As evening sunk deeper into the night, the kitchen filled with scents of chicken and roasted vegetables. Each cut of the knife felt guided, hopeful even with the anxiety creeping in regarding her brother's struggles. Tonight wasn't just about food. It was about forging new beginnings, about loving fiercely and unconditionally. After dinner, as she cleared the plates, Ethan tugged at her sleeve. "Mom, are you going to help Uncle Jake?" The question stung. Despite her excitement, Deep down, she felt the weight of the answer. Yes, sweetheart, she said softly, proud to put a name to her thoughts. I'm going to help him. He might need me more than I need him. After a long hug, she obtained their support. They tackled love and laughter together, and together, they pulled Jake back. The next day dawned bright and full of promise. With a suitcase packed with memories and commitment, Sarah made her way to Jake's house. Her heart raced as she climbed the familiar steps, old photographs of their childhood flooding her thoughts. This wasn't just a visit. This was the first step toward patching a fragile bond. The door swung open, and Jake stood before her, his expression a mix of confusion and something softer beneath the surface. Sarah, he said, surprise burbling up in his voice. No running off this time, we need to have that talk. She smiled faintly, holding his gaze. He stepped aside, letting her enter the dim room. Sarah felt an urge to clear the clutter that had overtaken their past, to bring the light back into his life. This place feels heavier than I remember, she declared lightly, trying to guide the mood. Yeah, well, I'm not in a state to impress, Jake finished uncomfortably. Good, because I'm not here to judge, she reassured, striving for open vulnerability. Remember we used to conquer the world together? He let out a half smile, yet a crinkle of doubt remained in his brow. I feel far from that kid, Sarah. We might be different now, but that spirit is still in both of us. And just like that, they tumbled into the depths of conversation. She guided him gently, peeling back layer after layer of hurt, fear, and regret. Vulnerability wore down walls. Her honesty ignited glimmers of understanding. With every word he shared, she offered reassurance, a soft embrace for his soul that longed for healing. Hours passed, and as the sun dipped behind the horizon, the weight of Jake's burdens lightened, leaving only hope shining in the dusk. Thank you for not giving up on me, he finally whispered, his voice cracking with emotion. Maybe we can take this journey together. A radiant smile stretched across her face. Yes, together. One day at a time. The journey ahead would be long, layered with challenges. But they would rise and fall as one, and as they stepped outside, once terrified of the shadows lurking ahead, Sarah felt an overwhelming warmth of connection surround them. They were family, intertwined with love. The light of possibility flickered in their hearts, guiding them toward the extraordinary. Now, let us go find a pizza to celebrate our first step, she declared, laughter bubbling between them. Their giggles danced off into the evening sky. A youthful ache still remained, but renewed the flight toward healing that awaited them. And in that moment, as Sarah felt the warmth of her brother beside her, she knew they'd woven back together the frayed threads of their family tapestry, eternally bound in shared struggle and triumph. This was only the beginning. If you felt this journey as deeply as I did, it's time you took action. You need to subscribe now to the channel for more incredible transformations like this. This is the moment to show your support and keep our community strong. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep us reaching hearts everywhere. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need a spark of hope in their lives. Your support means the world to us as we continue to breathe life into these stories.